Kim. Welcome to my channel, Dorothy's Daughter. I was fortunate enough to spend just a little bit of time at the Quilt and Sewing Expo at the Cleveland IX Center this weekend. I was only able to go for a few hours, but I was able to hit the exhibit floor, and I have a little fabric haul and notions haul to share with you today. I'm going to go through my haul, and then I'm going to also post a second video this week that tells all about tips. I actually have top 12 tips to survive a sewing expo. I have been to several of them, and what I actually learned quite a bit yesterday walking around the exhibit hall. That's the first time I've ever gone and not taken classes. But as it happened, I could only really go for a few hours, so I just concentrated on some things that I needed, and I really did learn a lot looking at prices and whatnot on the floor. So I plan to share that with you later this week, and then after that we'll do the sewing room tour. But I thought it was a timely thing since there's a lot of sewing expos happening in the springtime. So I got most of this from Vogue Fabrics. To be honest, the original Quilt and Sewing Expo in Cleveland was very heavily geared toward quilts, which I do some quilting, but it's not my main focus. So I was a little bit disappointed that there were not more apparel things there. There was only one mannequin company, and it was very, very expensive. They looked really nice. They were called Ditto. They looked really nice, but they were like $1,500, which is just, to me, my body changes too much to spend that kind of money on a mannequin. Yeah, this is Georgia, by the way. I named her Georgia because my daddy's favorite song was Georgia on My Mind. And I pad her, and she's not the greatest, and I don't use her for a specific fit, but it does help to have something to put an item on in order to pin and to kind of get an idea of what it'll look like when it's done. Obviously, if you look at her and you look at me, you know that she needs to be repadded with a little extra quilt batting, but she works for now. Eventually, I'd like to get a better one, but I like Georgia. She's been my constant sewing companion since my husband did this room for me. So back to my fabric haul from Vogue Fabrics. This is cotton lawn. It's got a wonderful feel to it. It's very, very, I think it's a pretty high quality cotton lawn. It was a very good deal, and I bought 2 yards of it. I believe I'm going to make either a shirt, like a cotton shirt, maybe a woven tee out of it. I really like the color. I'm into blues these days. I'm not really sure why, but I think I'm going to either make a Kalle shirt, which there might not be quite enough for that, but although I'm rather shorter than most of the people who sew that, so I may be able to get away with shortening it and being able to get it out of 2 yards, because I believe the pattern calls for 2.2. So I will have to see if I can fit the pattern pieces on that or not. Otherwise, I'm looking at something like the willow tee, or maybe even another Akita that I did from Seamstress. Although I'd love to get a woven tee with set-in sleeves out of this. I love it. It's kind of a tie-dye almost look, which is it's back. I lived through the 70s once, and I loved it then, and I still love it. I also got a batik piece. This is also 2 yards, and it's got some beautiful coloration. I love the colors. Now my thought is to this would make a gorgeous Kalle shirt. So definitely this will be a Kalle shirt if I have enough of it. If not, I think I might make a Sophia skirt. I haven't made one of those in a while. They were a staple wardrobe for me a couple years, well, let's see, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I made up a bunch of those and I wore them all summer, almost every day. And I think I might like to do that with this. It's a cotton, 100% cotton batik. I love batiks and they tend to be expensive. So when I saw that these were at Vogue Fabrics for $5.99 a yard, I grabbed one. This is 100% rayon. It's a challis. This will also be a shirt of some kind, a top, maybe a blousey top. I'm looking at the Rhapsody Blouse by Love Notions. That's one that's a possibility for this. Anyway, this is such a springy pattern. I love the colors in this. I think I tend to go for the bright colors. That's probably comes from Dorothy because she wore the brightest colors ever, my mom. She was in a wheelchair and her belief was that people wouldn't pay attention to her bottom half that was disfigured if she dressed with something really colorful and pretty on the top. And she just always looked classy, even sitting in that wheelchair. So she loved bright colors. Sometimes she was a little more over the top than I would care to be. Yeah, I love bright colors. I don't know how this got in here because it's not new, but it's very pretty. This is a polyester, but it has a feel that's almost like a challis. And this one will probably be like some kind of peasant blouse, or or it might be palazzo pants. That's another idea. I have hacked the Duet trouser pattern that I talked to you about last time. I've hacked that into a wide leg, and this might be, because sometimes I'm very short, so I don't want like super, well, I don't want to look like I have no legs. So I've hacked it somewhere between a full-on palazzo pant and just a wide leg trouser. The new pattern from Seamstress, I think it's called the Marret, something like that, the one this month. It looks really promising, and I thought about that, but there's not enough yardage for that, number one. And number two, it has some pleats in the front, and I'm afraid that might add to my already too big area there. So I think I'd probably stick to the Duet trouser, which has, you know, a nice fitted hip area and waistline, and then just flows out from there. Here's another piece. I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do with this, but I loved the blues. This is sort of either a very, very, very dark navy or a black. And then I love the blues that are in there. This one, I actually bought more yardage of this one. This one is a really higher quality rayon, and I love this print. It's so springy, and I love purple and blue and yellow. It's just a really adorable print. I'm looking at the new lyric dress from Love Notions for this one. Probably I'll do the version with the flutter sleeves. And last but not least, another 100% rayon. They just had a terrific sale on rayon pieces, so I kind of want to look crazy with them. This one is a rayon. This one I definitely bought with the intent of making pants. Now bear in mind that I change my mind what I'm going to make with fabric quite often, so what you end up seeing these things in could be different than what I'm saying now, but I do have a lot of fun spring sewing ahead of me. Notions wise, I picked up two things. There's a scissor man that goes to a lot of the expos, and his name is, I will put it up here. I have his card over on my bulletin board, but I can't remember exactly. But he sells very high quality scissors, and I've purchased several pair from him. It's kind of a tradition for me to buy some kind of cutting tool from him anytime I go to an expo. So I bought a little pair of snip scissors. They are heavy enough to go through a couple layers of fabric, but they'll also be good for snipping threads. I plan to put this in my little basket that I'm doing, my little Bruce bag that I'm making for myself to do hand sewing. So this is going to go in that little basket, but it also would be really good to trim seams and anything where you need to get in close. Buttonholes would be very good to cut buttonholes, as long as you put it. Let me give you one tip. We're not talking about buttonholes today, but if you're cutting any buttonholes, put a pin on either end of the buttonhole where you don't want to cut through, and then your scissor won't go past that mark, because it's very easy to ruin a buttonhole by cutting through it. And also I picked up from Kathy Ruddy's book. She sells a surgical seam ripper, and I've kind of always wanted one. It rips out serge seams in one swipe, which if you've ever tried to rip out a serge seam, you know that it can sometimes not be very easy. So anyway, this is a nice little tool. It's a little, it was like $4, not real expensive. Kathy Ruddy is someone that if you ever had the opportunity to hear her speak, she is a gem. She's completely knowledgeable about things. I took her class at another expo on Surgery 911, and I really learned so much. Anyway, that's what I purchased. Oh, I actually purchased 2 pair of these scissors because I bought one for my daughter-in-law, because she actually was unable to go. As I mentioned before, that we thought we might not even be able to go at all. But my son was ill. It's a dental thing. He's got a cracked tooth. So she was not feeling very good about leaving him with the kids. And, you know, having to put that stress on him. So she stayed home, and she really wanted to go. So I thought I'd buy her something while I was there. But I have to give props to my husband. I could almost cry when I say this, but he has always been so supportive of every crazy, wacky, creative thing I want to do. And yeah, he drove me to Cleveland and walked through the fabric, the Sewing Expo with me, which is pretty amazing, especially considered he's a sports fanatic, and it was Final Four weekend, and he actually missed the first game. So yeah, he's a good man. So I have to give props to him for doing that for me. And I was gonna take some video at the expo for you, but as I got in there, there just really wasn't that much for apparel sewing. But it gave me a chance to think about expos that I've been to, and what some tips would be for that I could pass on to you if you're planning on going to one. There are several coming up. There's one in the fall in Cincinnati close by. There's one in Novi in November, which I will probably attend all 3 days of, because I've gone to that one many times. So yeah, so I would just say if you want to know a little bit more about sewing expos, tune into the next video. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to my channel, and if you hit the little bell, ring that bell, you'll be notified whenever I post a new video. It will help me build my channel and be able to bring more to you, devote more time to it, and be able to bring more good content. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll be back in a few days with my Sewing Expo tips. Thank you. Happy sewing.